Hi everyone, this is Wilmar Calagos here, and welcome to the introduction to the Systemize the Business and also the STB Implementor 7-step process hand guide that we will be going through in the next 6 to 12 weeks. And I've really devised and constructed this 7-step just really based on documenting my journey and my process of putting systems together for my business before I launched it. And so I've really devised a plan and also built some tools, practical tools, to really get your business systemized, figure out its processes, and then being able to document what that would look like to run your business. And so I want to just go over a big picture, a 10,000 foot view of what we're going to be going through in the next 6 to 12 weeks. And so 6 weeks, really, the first 6 steps are really getting things set up. And the 7th step is really, putting together your blueprint, which it should already be done if you did all of the first 6 steps correctly. And so let's get to it. So here's what we're going to be going over. We're going to be going over the 7-step process and how to work through the handbook. And as you'll see, the handbook is a interactive PDF, and so you can really move along with the different modules. There's 17 total modules for the version 1 of the STB Implementor 7-step process. So we're going to be going through all of them together. And then we'll go over key things to remember as you go through the steps. And then importance of doing the modules for each step and not skipping. And so that's really important not to do that, because I've really constructed this program to where it builds upon itself. So if you skip something, the other things that we'll be doing in the later steps won't make any sense, or it won't be as it won't be constructed as good as it could be if you skip the other steps. And then what your overall outlook during the systemization process. And my goal really is to give you a tool in this video, and then the web application that I developed for you to build all your processes and your systems and your checklists and your video training and all of that. And those are the 3 parts. And then eventually the 4th part is really having systemization strategy sessions with me as you've worked through all the steps, and being able to critically think through each step with you is going to be the most valuable things. So it's those 4 things I think that for me are the 4 things that I think are needed to really work through the business, so that you can find and discover all the things that you need to run it. So the way I teach is progressive, cumulative, and also repetitive. So learning will be progressive. We're going to be sticking with the fundamentals, and so we'll progress through learning basics, fundamentals, because I've really built this so that even someone that doesn't know business or hasn't done any business to really be able to build through the building blocks of the 7-step process. And in reality, there's really no magic pill. There's no magic bullet really into building a business, because there's no wrong way to do it, but not to do it. But it's really learning to see what works, what doesn't work. So fail fast and learn fast is, I think, the best way to do it. And then learning will be cumulative. Systems are parts that work together with processes and executed by people. So we will continuously be reviewing the other steps so that the steps after make sense, so you can really solidify why we did what we did in the earlier steps to get to where we're at. And again, learning will be repetitive and reference, revisit modules, and understand the macro picture, the big pictures of the other steps. And so my hopes in this video is really to give you that big picture, how and the journey that we're going to take to get your business systemized or get your business launched with systems in place. And so, as you know, if you've talked to many entrepreneurs or people that actually have businesses, most of them don't have any systems in place. They don't have any processes in place, and they don't have no documentation. They don't have any training videos. They don't have things automated. So a lot of things are done manually. And you'll find 80% of businesses operate that way. And so through this process, we're going to help your business not run in that manner. And also for new entrepreneurs, we'll launch your company so that you'll have systems in place right from the beginning so that you can scale. And just remember, your blueprint will always be changing as the business grows. You'll continue to make changes and iterate, and that's just part of being a business or an organism, really, which is a business, no different from something that's alive, that constantly is changing. So you need to move with the market and then also the scaling of your business. And so STB Implementor designed and built for 3 categories of markets: brand new entrepreneurs starting from scratch with 0 systems, which has actually become like my favorite client, only because I'm a critical thinker. I like starting from scratch. I love it when I have a client that has an idea in their head, and I get excited because I get to figure out all their systems, set it all up, and have them just run with system right from the get-go. And plus, a lot of times I won't be familiar with what they're trying to do, and it helps me learn new markets and new ways to get into market, which is, to me, so much fun. The second one is the startups, less than 2 years. Less is better. And so, there's a lot of startups that, especially here in San Diego. And so less is better only because you have less things moving, right? And so when you have more things moving and then you have more people involved, then there's more challenges in getting everybody on the right page and moving with the same pulse, so to speak. But startups are, so if you're a startup and you're listening to this, all your systems you have systems already that you're running, but most of the time it's probably in the minds and heads of your staff, your team, or probably in your head. And so the challenge and the process is really getting those processes and systems out of your head in on paper, and then utilizing technology to run it. And then the third is the operating businesses that need a reboot or pivot with systems. And this is, out of the 3, that this, the third one is really going to be the most challenging to tackle. And so I take on probably like 20% of the clients that come to me with, businesses that are running a ton of things. And what and why that is because they have a lot going on. And so for me, the business owner or the operating managers really need to be on board of making the tough decisions, the time and commitment to do it, which is sometimes not the easiest. And so I really am particular who I work with in that sector. I've actually just created a partnership with a larger company that does multi-million-dollar builds in web, mobile, IT, servers, and all that good stuff. And so now I'm in a position to help companies like this that need to really figure out the systems that they need, and if they need to build something, then now we have the capability of actually helping them. But again, it has to stem from a business owner that really wants to figure out their systems and processes, and then taking the time to really figure those things out, because there's so many things moving already, and sometimes it's really tough. And so I'm very selective with that third market. So welcome to STB Implementor 7-Step Process Handbook Guide. And if you haven't downloaded it already, and so definitely do that before moving on with this video. Go ahead and pause. And I just want to show you what that looks like. So you'll get this. Version 1 right now has 83 pages. And so your complete STB Implementor Guide, 7-Step Process Handbook, everything you need to systemize your business. And you'll see you'll have all of the steps on this side. And one particular thing just to really notice is that step 1 is going to be the biggest, because it has 10 modules. And you'll see right here, these modules are one module each all the way down. So after completing step 1, which is the big one, everything else is really tying everything together and using technology and integrating everything. And once you integrate your systems, document all of it using the web application, and then choosing what software, what SaaS, software as a service, you're going to be using to run all the systems that you currently have in your business or need to create for the new entrepreneurs. And this 10 modules, once you get this done and get clarity, then this right here will be simple. Certainly not easy, but it will take work. But the real work is really right here, and figuring out what you want to do with your business. This is really identifying what you want to do, who you are, and how you're going to do it. And so very, very important piece, which is your foundation. And you don't want to build your foundation on sand. You want to really have a good foundation, because you don't want something small to knock it over, because you don't have any systems in place. And sometimes what's disastrous for companies sometimes is that their product or service is so good that they get a bunch of customers, but they don't have a system in place to actually service their customers. So therefore that could be a good thing, but also it could be a downfall. So that's why it's really, really important to get your systems in place from the beginning. And if you're a business that's growing now and didn't do it from the beginning, it's not too late. We just need to identify pretty much the 20% of the systems that you need today, and then continue to develop the other ones. And so step one is foundation, setting up your business domain to scale. And so, whatever industry that you decide to do, whether it's a product or a service, you need to really set it up so that you could be the king of the hill, so to speak, in your industry. And you need to do that, from the beginning, or begin that process of figuring what that is. And so there's going to be 10 modules. Again, biggest module or biggest step is going to be step one, foundation. So number one is the foundation examination worksheet. And this is really just taking an inventory, an evaluation of what you currently have in your business and what's going on. And this will serve more of the startups and also the business owners that already have businesses to really just sit down and figure out big picture and take an inventory of what you have in your business, what's running, what you're using, and how are you operating today. For the new entrepreneurs that don't have anything set up, this checklist will serve you well, because now you know exactly what systems you need. So you'll actually be doing this as well, but from a framework of really thinking through what systems would you need if you really are stepping up and really starting your own company. And then module number 2 is niche focus. And so I find this a lot, and you'll probably find this as well when you ask somebody what they do. They probably give you maybe 2, 3, or 10 things that they do in their business. So, as a new startup or a new entrepreneur launching their business, you really have to figure out your niche. I mean, what are you focusing on, right? This topic is pretty loaded, but I will say this. In the beginning, when you want to market yourself, right? You don't want to market yourself as somebody that does everything, because one, it's going to cost you a lot to educate the market in what you do, and then you're pretty much placed in this category where you're a Me Too company. And so when you don't have a niche, then you pretty much become just another fish in the sea. And that's where module 3, once you figure out what you want to do, then you have to create a message, a compelling message, your elevator pitch, so to speak, and then your USP, your unique selling position, and how you're going to be different from the market so that you stand out. And so those module 2 or 3 really go hand in hand in figuring that out. And I've done this pretty early in the stages of building a company, only because one, for me, my suggestion with my business is that I really took time to figure out what I did really well. So through the companies that I work for as a W-2 employee and then a 1099 employee, I've kind of looked back and said, what did I do really well? What was I good at that I brought a lot of value, and then I've created a ton of revenue for companies that I worked for. And so that's how I really came up with Systemize the Business and build my skill set and what I brought value to my employers. And I'm just now doing the same thing, except now it's just my own business. And so my point is saying that is that your niche focus and your message and how you can be unique in the marketplace. And hopefully, the business that you're getting into is something that you love, something that you are really looking to doing in the next 3, 5, 10, 15, 20 years. So for me, I've started, in my mid 30s and really, hone in on what I want to do. And so you may be a little younger, but in any case, hopefully it's something that you love to do and that you're good at, and that whatever you're doing, you can really bring value. Because, entrepreneurship has been kind of really romanticized by everyone. But when it gets down to it, not very many people, are really wanting to put the work in, to be a business owner, to be an entrepreneur. And so, so number 4 is 12 ideal market questions and analyze. And so what you'll do in this module is study your market. And so, it comes forth in the 10 modules because you have to figure out what you want to do, how you want to do it, and then look at the market to see what people are saying about the particular market you're trying to go after. And so do not skip this part, because this part will make all the other parts much easier to do as far as the modules. And then module number 5 is creating your customer avatar. And this is really once you know what you want to do, how you want to say it, how you're going to be different, then you study the market and then study the influencers and the people that are already doing what you want to do. And then you create your customer avatar and have a clear picture, who, what, where, when, how of your customer, so that you have a clear vision what to go after when you start your marketing campaigns. Then module number 6 is the system and operations questionnaire. And this will allow you to hone in on the systems that you need. How are you operating now? And then what you need to improve and develop. And then what systems do you currently need that you currently don't have. Module number 7 is your product and service delivery. And this is going to be a crucial part, because your product and service delivery, this module really makes you figure out how you're going to serve your customer. And so for me, you can take my 7-step process, the STB 7-step process handbook. This is pretty much my product and service delivery. So when I hand this to my client, they know exactly what's expected of them, what's expected of me to deliver, and the path of delivering my service is the 7-step process. And so the clearer it is to your customer, the more likely that they will work with you or buy from you. And, once you do this part really well, your sales is going to become so much simpler, because your product and service delivery really becomes, one, your sales script, and then also your sales process. So, definitely an important module. And then the last 3 is really creating and understanding the business that you're in, the business that you want to build. And again, I'm hoping it's a business that you love and have tremendous passion for, because if it's not, there's an unlikely chance that it's going to succeed, because having your own business takes a lot of work, and then you have to work through the growing pain, so to speak, as your business grows. And so module number 8 is really going to help you with that, in knowing your purpose and your vision for your company. And this is really where you sit down and hopefully you take some time to reevaluate your vision and your purpose, because it's going to align everything that you do moving forward. And it's going to really solidify a lot of things. And this is not, a lot of, some people skip this part. They don't think it's important. But if you truly are trying to build a business that you want to last, then your vision purpose is going to be needed. Because as you grow, people are going to need to know and are going to ask you as a business owner the vision and purpose of the company. Because people don't work for companies, they work for people. And so vision and purpose is important. And then module number 9 is values and culture. And values and culture is important because now this is kind of like your gateway for anybody that wants to be part of your purpose and your vision. And so you only hire and work with people and partner with people that share the same value. And if they have the same value, then you'll have a continuous culture. Culture will be built because the people that you hire and work with and partner with have the same value. And so just like an organism, if people have the same values and then the culture is pretty consistent, then that organism is going to grow organically, and that's what you really want. And then you get to module number 10, which is building your dream team. And once you go through the first 9 modules, you'll really know who you're looking for, or start to look for. And if it's just you, then you continue that search. But this 10 modules will solidify a lot of things for you once you work through it. And then step 2 is systems. 7 business systems for domination. And what you want to do here is, these systems should already be figured out. If you've done step 1 correctly and you were thorough, you took your time, you were, very patient, and you really took time to figure out, okay, what systems do I really need to have in the beginning stages, or in the position my company is now, or for a startup, you're starting to grow and you're really wanting systems in place because people are doing work and it's working, but then everybody is kind of not on the same page, and you're feeling it because things are moving and growing. And so the 7 systems for rulership. And number 1 is communication, your client relationship, CRM, your team relationship management. And so as far as system, this is going to be the base, because your CRM is pretty much where you house everything that happens in your business. Literally what happens in your business. And so you'll need to, 1, pick the correct one, which we will go through once we get to this module. And you need something that is going to be compatible with the other 6 parts that we're going to go through right now. So the second one is marketing. And so tactics versus strategy. Tactics is pretty much like Facebook marketing, Instagram marketing. That's a tactic of marketing. But then you really need to figure out a strategy. And so this is where the systemization strategy sessions really come in. And also the videos that you're going to be watching. So the next system is your sales system, managing how sales flows into the business. And then the fourth one is accounting, tracking the money and how money comes in and how money comes out, and how you can pretty much look at your dashboards in your CRM and kind of really track to see where everything else is on a daily basis in real time. The fifth system that you'll need to develop is the customer service support, and it's going to be centralized and decentralized ways of doing it. And so centralized and decentralized just means, having support where you don't have to do it, or your team doesn't have to do it. And so there's forms of decentralized support that you can provide, and there's centralized support and service, customer service, that you can implement that do take and use up resources in your company. Then the system number 6 is human resources. Obviously, we need an HR department. We need to have consistent onboarding as we hire other people. And then system number 7 is file management, having a centralized company assets, storage, and a filing system. And so, as you know, and you probably have already seen this working for other people or maybe in your company right now, is that your files are pretty much everywhere. No one really knows how to find what file. It's kind of like in 4 different computers. There's really no systems in place to store it all. And so we want to centralize all of that so everyone can get what they need. And also, when it's organized, then your team will be responsible to updating your files and your systems so that it stays updated. But if they can't find where those files are, where they're supposed to store it, or don't have a system to follow, then you pretty much have a very disorganized company. And then when new employees come in, they don't know where everything's at. And then if you want to sell your company, if you don't have some kind of organization, then it's going to be pretty challenging to do that. So you want to do and have all 7 of these systems so that it's scalable, but it's also sellable, and systems are in place, and also investable. So I actually just had a systemization strategy session with somebody from Australia. And so they're a investment firm with multiple private investors, and they invest in companies, but they have to be investor ready. And so having systems like this is definitely key into getting some investment dollars to run and scale your business. Then step number 3 is documentation, capturing the mind of the king. And this is really what that is pretty much a lot of times the systems and processes are in the mind of the owner for the most part, and he has his own way, or their own way, or her own way of figuring out and knowing how their business runs. And sometimes the minds would be the employees or the team, but we really need to start having a way of documenting. And so, step 3 in my documentation process is, very, very simple. And again, we need to keep everything simple and, practical so that it's easy for others to execute. And so this step is really taking what you did in step 1 and understanding what you need and want to do. And then you have the systems that you want to put together. And then now it's just documenting the process step by step. And this is what I call systems capture. So key documenting techniques to keep in mind, which I'll go over, and then keep steps, 3 to 12 core steps, and then what we do is write 2 to 3 sentences describing each step, and then fill in the details by creating what I call a VTC, video training creation. And so my hopes is that in your company people would start using these acronyms when you guys have systems that need to be created in video form, that you just have someone do a VTC on it. So now step 1 is figuring out who, what, where, and how, and why you do what you do. And then we figure out the systems, we document it, figure out the steps, we figure out the process, and then now what we need to do is figure out what technology we're going to do. So step 4 is technology, the kingdom's round table. And it's really, in a sense, setting up your war room and how you're gonna strategically execute everything that you need. And so this is going to be really key, because technology allows you to multiply yourself like 3, 4, 6, 10x. And so you could literally, with technology, operate as if you had like 20 employees, and it's just you or 2 other people. So technology helps with automating and not doing repeatable tasks, so you can actually focus on critical tasks that would help you greatly in growing your business, rather than doing repeatable tasks that are very minor in growing. And so there's 2 different software technology out there. Is industry specific versus customization. So the 2 types of SaaS or software to consider in the sea of application. And you will see a sea of application once you go through the 7 steps and actually figuring out your systems and what you want to use. You will see a massive amount in the marketplace. And so through the process, we'll figure out, and through your research, you'll figure out what's going to work best for you. So choosing the right ones that fit your kingship domain, pros and cons of both options. And then I will go through my personal recommendation of what you should use, and then tips on deciding which one. But ultimately, it's going to be up to you what you want to use. Especially if you're a startup, you already have systems in place, you have technology that you're using. So it may or it may not be a good idea to change, because you have employees, you have a team that's already using it, it's already moving. So there's just so many factors and variation. But ultimately, what's important is that you're trying to figure that out so that you have a system in place moving forward. And so step 5 is integration, executing the plans of the king. And so, again, step 1, we've pretty much answered who, what, where, why, what systems. Then you're going to document it. And then you're pretty much going to use what technology you want. And then once you mesh those 2 things and you understand what technology that you're going to use, obviously you have to integrate all the ideas, all the processes, all the documentation, and integrate it together so that it all meshes together. And this part is going to be a lot of testing and making sure the results that you want is what's being put out as far as after integrating everything. And so development, implementation, and testing. Development, mapping the systems and its processes through the documentation. Implementation, placing the gears to turn together and get the desired results. So testing, development, plus implementation is going to be, should equal the desired results that you want. And so that's why, my clients usually work with me for about 6-7 weeks in trying to figure out a system and also implementation. And then, for 5 weeks is really having them use the systems and the processes and see and test, make sure they're getting exactly what they want out of all of it. And so a lot of testing and iterating. And then so once we get all of that in place, really what's left is training your managers, training your team to execute the systems and processes. And so through your hard work in the first 5 steps, now all you have to do is teach everyone else to execute it. And so in turn, you want 80% of your business to be run through systems and processes and automate as much as you can. But the 20% is still key because you still need people to execute and also be accountable to run the systems and processes correctly. And so training up the army to execute, individual executing of processes, team execution of systems, and then accountability of executing processes and systems. And then we get to the last step, which is your blueprint, your way of managing the kingdom. And essentially, the blueprint will be something that will be ever changing. So your blueprint will never just stay stagnant because you're going to grow as a business. As you grow, you may need to develop other systems, more intricate systems. You may need, web, mobile application that you believe you need to add even more value to your customers, to your clients. And so all those things are, important to continue to develop. And essentially the kingdom's blueprint is running with clarity, everyone knowing how to execute, peace of mind of having system processes, and being able to look at documentation in written form and also in video form. And then ability and option to scale, how big or not big, but creating systems, if you want to stay smaller, then your systems will have to be that much more efficient. Building a company that can scale, and then being investor ready as well. So this process will be, again, a 6 to 12 week process, and establishing exactly what you need to systemize your business. And this is a lean approach, meaning that we will only consider and build systems that you need today, but also make plans for systems that you may need later on. So let's start establishing the kingdom, building the kingdom in 7 steps. And so just the last thing I want to go over are the 4 things that matter when you systemize the business. Again, I want to just, continue to tell you that you're part of, the 10% of companies right now that are truly trying to figure out how to run their business with systems, because 80 to 90% of businesses don't have systems in place, and most companies that launch don't have systems in place in a clear way. So there's 4 things that I want you to continue to focus on, which is systems, processes, documentation, and execution. So aside from closing sales, which is really important, is to get sales and cash flow into your business, you will be tempted to do other things. But when it comes to systemization, your brain power has to be focused on these 4 parts. Implementing the systems you need today, figuring out its processes, documenting them, and executing them. So these are going to be the 4 things that you need to keep in mind as you go through this journey. What systems do I need? How and what processes am I going to use as steps to run these systems? I want to be able to document them in written form and also in video form. And then I will need to have everybody execute it, not just myself, but also execute and assigning someone to be accountable to run the processes, to run the systems, and to make sure the documentations are updated. So, thanks, and I will see you on the next video right now.